أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم سبحانك لا فهم لنا إلا ما فهمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وأفوض أمري إلى الله إن الله بصير بالعباد اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم صل صلاة كاملة وسلم سلاما تاما على سيدنا محمد الذي تنحل به العقد وتنفرج به الكرب وتقضى به الحوائج وتنال به الرغائب وحسن الخواتم ويستسقى الغمام بوجهه الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه في كل لمحة ونفس بعدد كل معلوم لك اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى اللهم إنا نسألك عفو والعافية في الدين والدنيا والآخرة توفنا مسلما والحقنا بالصالحين اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين يا أرحم الراحمين ارحمنا يا رب العالمين ارحمنا يا ربنا يا ذا الجلال والإكرام ارحمنا يا قدوس يا سلام ارحمنا لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم رب يسر ولا تعسر رب تمم بالخير رب زدني علما وفهما والحقنا بالصالحين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وأما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My respected brothers and very respected sisters and all of our brothers and sisters families watching over the internet, welcome to our Tuesday night class where we go through from the little booklet attributed to the great Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalaani entitled Munabbihaat al-Isti yawmi al-Ma'ad. We are on page 70 in our book, in our notes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah into our learning. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open our hearts and let the hearts listen. And we'll leave today after this dars as a changed person, inshallah, little more step closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our hearts, inshallah ta'ala. Last week we began with a saying of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala an, where he mentioned that a mu'min, a believer, is in six types of fear. We are surrounded always with six types of fear. A Muslim Can you hear me now? Good, alhamdulillah. The first fear is that a Muslim is always afraid that because of something that he does wrong, out of his ghaflah, out of his stupidity, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes angry with him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the hidayah away from him, takes the iman from him. He's always on edge. A Muslim, a mu'min, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, بَيْنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالرَّجَى. A Muslim is between fear and hope. We can never sit on our laurels and say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to put on the Jannah, Allah loves us, Allah is all loving, and completely don't do anything what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks you to do. And you just live in the life of fisq and fujur and complete transgression and hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to look after you. There are so many Muslims today, tamanni, yatamanna, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, they hope for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without doing anything. And therefore, they do Can you hear me now? At the back? Yes, okay. So that's the first fear. A Muslim is always hoping that inshallah accepts, but he's got a fear in his heart somewhere that he is not sure. So this is a fear that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala one day, or maybe because of his wrongdoings, might take the hidayah, iman away from him. First fear. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always keep iman intact inshallah. The second fear is that the angels will write down things that will expose him on the Day of Judgment. One of the most embarrassing moments for a Muslim is on the Day of Judgment, where his sins that he used to guard and used to not show to anybody to be exposed to others. Al-haya'u min al-iman. The feeling bashful, feeling modest. To embarrass, to be able to feel embarrassment in your heart is one of the aspects of iman. If you don't have any haya, a person who doesn't have any haya can go and do any form of haram outside without any feeling embarrassed, feeling red on the face. Those people who have no haya, they do lots of what you call harams in the open. They don't care what people think. But a Muslim, first and foremost, he's embarrassed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore he tries to avoid harams. But sometimes he falls into these harams because of this shahawat, because of his urges, temptations are so strong. Sometimes in times of weakness he does wrong things. But he wants to keep away from everybody, that nobody sees. In Islam we never disclose our sins to anybody. You don't go around and brag about your sins. It's absolutely haram to do so. So if you've done something wrong, it's one of those things that you keep away from everybody. And one of your greatest fears is that on the Day of Judgment this will be open to people and everybody will see what you have done. One of the most important things that human beings today try to guard more than everything else, they even sue each other if there is some wrongness in it, is their state of their reputation in the people. People live with their reputations, live there with their dignity, who they are. If your reputation is dragged beneath the feet of the people, Nas, and you are seen as somebody who is really disgusting, terrible, many people even go and commit suicide because of these. Not the Muslims, I'm talking about the general society. They cannot stand in the society, or they go somewhere else, or they go and start up a new life somewhere else. But their what do you call, history always catches up with them. Similarly, a Muslim is always afraid that one day his sins are going to catch up with him on the Day of Judgment, and it's going to be displayed in front of people on the Day of Judgment. So this is a great fear for him. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we know from the many hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says if a Muslim prays 5 times a day, his salat is intact. The first thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks the malaika, he knows already the answer, what the answer is. He says, have a look in the book of my servant if his salat is intact. In other words, he has done his 5 daily salat since the time of puberty until he died. Is it full? All the fara'id is done? Yes, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Okay, not a problem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not disclose the rest of the sins that you have, your bad deeds, on the Day of Judgment to human beings, or anybody else for that matter. Duration of your reckoning, your account, auditing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not last longer than the duration of praying 4 rakats of salat. 5 minutes, 10 minutes maximum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, khalas, go to Jannah. This is a promise of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do this. If the salat is not intact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes goodness, khair for you. He will say, okay, his fara'id is not intact. Has he done any sunan, any sunnats? He says, completed with the sunnats, put the sunnats on. Any other nawafils, just put it on. And with the sunnats, they also make it up, and okay, it's full account now. Then after that, the same treatment you will get. But if you did not do your salat properly, salat was not established, your link with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not established properly, in private or in public. Salat was not the main pillar of your deen. Salat was not important to you. Salat was just an occasional ritual that you used to do in amongst the people on special days, on special nights. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's treatment of you will be completely different. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, Allah then will ask the angels to open the books for you. Everything that you've done will be, from minutest amount to the biggest sins, everything will be displayed and everything will be questioned. So there is a way out. Yes, this is a fear for us, a real fear for us, that our books will be shown to the people on the Day of Judgment. If we don't want our books to be shown to people, we must establish salat, and we must be vigilant about our salat, not heedless about our salat. And the third fear that we went through in detail last week, the third is that Shaitan alayhi la'na will render his actions void. In other words, a Muslim will be so jahil, so ignorant as to how Shaitan alayhi la'na works, how he tricks people. Then therefore he begins to believe, he begins to harbor an opinion in his heart that he is a good Muslim and he is going to go to Jannah for sure. And therefore in order to, in the name of religion, in the name of feeling so spiritual and feel good, he begins to invent things, bid'ah in religion. He makes up things, and he does not follow the Quran and Sunnah per se 100%, but he follows what he feels right, what he feels good, how, it's more spiritual, it's more modern age spirituality, and it's okay, we accept you. Aqidah is all flawed, and the fiqh is all flawed, it's not Sharia compliant, there is no ikhlas, and even ikhlas and sincerity, which is not ticked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shaitan alayhi la'na will make you believe that your deeds are good. In actual essence, on the Day of Judgment, when you look at your deeds which are fully done with riyah and not ikhlas and not Sharia compliant, full of bid'ah, su'il adab, it's all in there. Then Shaitan, in other words, he has won and he has made you into believe, duped into you to think that you are good, and yet you are losing all the time. It's like a captain who's got a ship and he's singing songs, he's at the top, and at the bottom he's got 5-6 holes under the ship, and it's all what they call taking water in. Eventually that ship will sink. And when will he understand this? When he sees the water. When that captain sees the water, he's like the Muslim on the Day of Judgment. His book is given to you and none of his a'mal is accepted, because of the way Shaitan duped that person into thinking that his a'mal was good. So what is the criteria for us? Everything we must do must comply with the Sharia. It must be complied with the fiqh of Islam. We have to have knowledge. You just cannot make up things on your own. You think that it is right. It must be 100% Quran and Sunnah compliant. If you want to do anything, even if you think that it feels right or wrong, you go and find out what the Sharia says, what Islam says, and do it. Otherwise, you think that it's not fair or fair, you come up with some sort of definition or personal opinion on a matter which could be completely opposite of Islam, and you might think that you're still a good Muslim, but all your a'mal is gone. One particular example I can give you that will really shed a light to this issue, and it happens because I see it all the time. There are so many brothers and sisters, elderly brothers and sisters. They are so proud of their Islam, mashallah. They never left salat in their lives. Some of the sisters will say, I've never shown my hair to any non-mahram in my entire life. I went to Hajj 4 times. MashaAllah, very good. And you think that Jannah is waiting for you. And yet, one particular test you might have lost dismally. That is, when the time of division of inheritance came. And according to Sharia, for example, brothers get 1 share, sisters get half share. Men get full share, women get half share for certain reasons according to Sharia. There is a formula how the inheritance should be divided. Correct? So when this time comes, all of a sudden you find out that you're going to lose out in terms of wealth of your father, okay, as a female, and you say, no, I don't like this division. I want what? I want it according to the civil law. I want it according to Australian law. I want equal distribution. And therefore, you got your equal distribution. What happens now? Everything that you eat is haram. Everything that you have said that you are taken from that particular property is haram. The house that you're staying in, which you're not supposed to stay in, is haram. None of your ibadah is accepted. None of your dua is accepted. None of your hajj is accepted. Even the money that you're taken from the sale of one of the assets that is not supposed to be yours, you went to hajj and gave sadaqah, is not accepted. But in your mind all along, you think that this is something that is accepted and you're beautiful. Who gives you this false security? Shaitan alayhi la'na. But if you knew what Sharia was, what the deen was, what haram was, what halal was, whether it was against you or for you, you would have accepted and complied with it. Do you understand how Shaitan can trick a person into believing that you are doing the right things and yet you're not doing the right things? So we need to be careful. This is an anxiety for a Muslim, a fear for a Muslim that he must keep in mind. The fourth fear for a Muslim is that the angel of death, Malakul Maut, Azrail alayhi salam, will take his soul when he is in a state of ghafla. In a state of ghafla, heedlessness. Hafidhallahu wa iyyakum. Hafidhanallahu wa iyyakum. What does ghafla means? Ghafil, heedlessness. A person is in a state of not forgetfulness, heedlessness, neglectful, deliberate, neglectful state. I want to, inshallah, spend some time on this particular point before I go into the next one. They are all related to one another. And the fifth is that the dunya will delude him to make him work for the other than the hereafter. So this is all related to one another. I want to talk about this because ghafla is one of the main diseases of nafsul ammara. In effect, ulama teach us, ghafla is the third deadliest sin and deadliest destructive attribute. If it takes a foothold in the heart of a Muslim, that Muslim is gone. The first one, there are the 12 diseases of nafsul ammara, the animal self, the lowest, the worst possible self. The first one is kufr, shirk. The second one is kufr. First one is shirk, the second one is kufr. Or the first one is kufr, the second one is shirk. The third one is ghafla. Ghafla. Ghafla is such a dangerous disease, and unfortunately this is the disease of the Muslims of today more than everything else, because this is the root cause. Everything else stems from it. Whatever you see, whatever turbulations that you see in the world, whatever state that you see amongst the Muslims, it is all due to this particular state called ghafla, heedlessness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in so many ayat of the Quran about the people who are in a state of ghafla. They are called ghafilun. Ghafilun, the people of ghafla. The people are completely submerged in a state of ghafla. I am 100% sure I am one of those persons. I don't know about you, but I am one of those persons. Because I check myself against the criteria of Quran and Sunnah, I am definitely one of those. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help me. But there are inshallah ways of getting out of it, and I will inshallah mention those things today. So if you are taking notes, please take careful notes, because these are the teachings of our mashayikh. These are the teachings of our teachers who have taught us how to come out of state of ghafla. It is a dynamic process, it is a continuous process, it is a continuous battle until you die, to keep yourself away from ghafla or try to come out of ghafla. Inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never make us of the ghafiloon. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Surah Al-A'raf. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَلَقَدْ ذَرَأْنَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا وَلَهُمْ عَيْنٌ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ بِهَا وَلَهُمْ آذان لا يسمعون بها أولئك كالأنعام بل هم أضل أولئك هم الغافلون. Subhanallah. أولئك, they are none other than غافلون. Who are they? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and certainly we have created for hell many of the jinn and the men. So hell is created for who? Jinn and the men. They have hearts. Who are these people? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives, qualifies the people who go to Jahannam. They have hearts with which they do not understand. And they have eyes with which they do not see. They have ears with which they do not hear. And they are as almost like cattle, worse than cattle, belhum adal, worse than the animals. Nay, they are in worse errors. These are the heedless ones, the heedless, the ghafiloon. Allah just described all the kafirun and the people whose hearts are completely gone, in a state of ghafla. We want to look at what this ghafla is, inshallah, in detail. In a different ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعَ اللَّهُ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ وَسَمْعِهِمْ وَأَبْصَارِهِمْ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْغَافِلُونَ. These are they on whose hearts and their hearing and their eyes Allah has set a seal. And these are the heedless ones. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set a seal on their hearts, on their ears, on their eyes. They can't see anything. Not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did it deliberately to these people. Not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of injustice did this to these people. Na'udhu billah, that's not it. Because they have abused the God-given right to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have abused their hearts. They did not think properly, and they deliberately chose the wrong path. As a result, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left them alone. In other words, as if their hearts are completely blocked, their eyes are blocked, their ears are blocked, they can't hear, they're deaf, mute and dumb. They have forgotten Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As a result, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them forget themselves in a state of ghafla. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah wal tanzur ma qaddamat lighatin wattaqullah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, fear Allah and prepare for the hereafter, for tomorrow, for akhirah. Fear Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what you're doing. وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهِ. Do not be like those people who have forgotten Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. نَسُوا اللَّهِ. They have forgotten Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As a result, فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them forget themselves. They became ghafil. They became kafir. They became munafiq. They became jahil. Deliberately, because we are given a choice. And this choice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not interfere. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I've given you a choice, use it. Use it. If you abuse it, you lose it. Simple. If you don't use that ability to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after seeing everything around you, you are absolutely nothing. You're just living in a biological mesh, avatar. But you are the one, there is one inside that you feel constantly, which makes you you, this ruh that I've given to you. If you don't use this ruh to find me, I've given so many clues around you, so many things that you can see and find me, and yet you deliberately chose a path. I made you forget yourselves, and you became part of the ghafiloon. Again, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions about the ghafilun, ghafla. Hearts, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, al-qulubu arba'atun. Hearts are 4 types. Ghafla, happens in the state of heart. It is not outside of us. Everything else is a reflection of that heart. Our behavior is a reflection of our state of our heart. Ghafla is such a disease that it is amazing, controls everything. It is the best, the cushy state of nafs al-ammara. It loves that state of ghafla. It says, yes, I am in charge of everything. Nafs says, I am in charge of everything. I can do anything I want. Oh, don't worry. And Shaitan alayhi lana from outside says, Allah is Ghafurur Rahim, Allah will forgive you. Allah is so merciful, Allah loves everybody. We are Muslims. La ilaha illallah, also like, don't worry. Continue living the way you are. Nafs says, yeah, I like you too, mate. Yeah, no problem. Together, Ya Latif. Haram upon haram. Sin upon sin, haram upon haram, sin upon sin, with that, and we become desensitized to sin. Like when you see too many violent movies on television, the sociologists of today, they say that we become desensitized. We see war constantly on the channels, and we just switch it to something else, something funny. We don't want to watch it. Our hearts become desensitized to sin, because as soon as we sin, the heart begins to become dark. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are 4 types of hearts. Al-qulubu arba'atun. Ajradu fihi mithlu siraji yazharu. Wa qalbun ughliqa marbutun ala ghilafihi. Wa qalbun منكوس وقلب مصفح مصصاد مصفح. There are 4 types of hearts if you look at human beings. The first heart is a purified, cleansed heart. Completely rid itself from the disease of nafs al-ammara. Tazkiyatun nafs is achieved in the hands of a qualified sheikh, doctor, and they can see that their good deed, good akhlaq entered into their hearts. Akhlaq al-hamida entered, and akhlaq al-razila just left. Takhliya and tahliya process took place. For this person's heart is like an open heart, illuminating, giving light, amazing like a sun. Beautiful. And this can be seen on his face, on his ahwal, on his deeds. Nurun ala nur. This person, Siraj, is a nur coming out of his heart. This is the heart of a believer, true mu'min. Second, qalb, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, completely closed heart. This is the heart of a kafir. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers in the 2nd page of Surah Al-Baqarah, one of the ayats that we memorize very easily, Summun bukmun umyun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, they are deaf, mute, blind, and they can't hear anything. Just completely seal their hearts. Completely. No light comes in, no light comes out. Nothing is completely blocked. This is the heart of a kafir. Very easy, very simple human being. You see, if you look at the first page of Surah Al-Baqarah, when it starts talking about Alif Lam Mim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. This is a book in which there is no doubt. هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. It is a hidayah, guidance for those people who are seeking who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the next 3-4 ayats describes the status of a Muslim. Who's a Muslim? Who's a mu'min? As soon as you change the other page, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about in 1 or 2 ayats the state of a kafir. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا سَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ أَنذَرْتَهُمْ أَمْ لَمْ تُنذِرْهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Whatever you warn them or not warn them doesn't make any difference to them. They're just talking to a wall. صُمٌّ بُكْمٌ عُمْيٌ لَهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says they are deaf, mute, completely gone. Khalas. Simple. There's so many of them. But the next ayah, from ayat 13 till 20, and even further, and elsewhere in the Quran, in so many places, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about a particular group of people, which is the third qalb. The third qalb, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, is an upside down heart. Upside down heart. Or inside out heart or upside down heart. Why is that so? These people were exposed to the truth, but they made a choice not to believe. Not to believe. And they acting like believers, but their inside is completely kafir. This is a munafiq. True munafiq in aqidah, in belief. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam refers to them as the upside down heart. And the fourth type of heart Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam talks about is a musfah heart. Meaning a heart of a ghafil, sinful, heedless Muslim, fasiq Muslim. One day, depending on the oscillation, depending on the mood that he's in, sometimes he's very spiritual high. Next time when you see him when he's down, you can't even recognize whether he's a Muslim or not. And he even himself is disgusted with his own state. He says, disgusting, you're despicable, yuck. He even swears at himself. He says, you are disgusting, but his iman is there. But in his heart, he's got two things. He's got good and bad. He's got khair and shar. He's got iman and evil. Two things in it at the same time. He says, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam describes in the continuation of the hadith, it's like his heart has the life-giving water, that iman. If you put some green, it'll grow. The water will give. Or he says he's got some poison at the same time. Make sense? It'll destroy. Two hearts. He says, at the end of the hadith, he says, فَأَيُّ الْمَدَّتَيْنِ غَلَبَتْ عَلَى الْأُخْرَى غُلِبَتْ عَلَيْهِ. Whichever of the two states is dominant on him at the end of his life, he will die in that state. So you are, na'udhu billah, in a haram place, doing some haram stuff with your haram mates. Okay, then Malakul Maut just walked up. Hey, young, I am Malakul Maut. Your time to go. If you are drunk, if you are in that haram state, no tawbah, no ibadah, no nothing, you will die in that state. And you will be resurrected on the day of judgment in that state. Why? I will tell you in a minute. But if you are a person whose last words from this dunya is in a state of iman, in a yaqeen, ikhlas, ibadah, and you are remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what will happen? You will be resurrected on the day of judgment according to that whatever dominant thing was on you on the day of judgment. So a Muslim is a person who is a sinful Muslim, is like a person playing 50-50 chance with everything. Flipping a coin. You don't know which side is going to end. You're playing with fire. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never told us when our death is going to come, but he told us what things to come before death and what should we prepare before the death, so that we are not caught in a state of ghafla in the time of death. Malakul Maut is waiting for us. It's just constantly waiting and looking for your time. Any minute, any minute, any minute, any minute. And you have no idea. And if you look at yourself and you think that Malakul Maut is never going to come to me, this Malakul Maut is never going to come to me concept is the definition of ghafla. I'm still young. I've got plenty of years to go. I want to become old first, have children first, get married, have established business. Some of them say, I'll become a millionaire first. Then after that, I'll have my houses, I'll have my grandchildren. When I'm 85, 90, maybe inshallah I'm ready. Then I'll call Malakul Maut, excuse me, I'm ready, come here. And this is a ghafla. This is a state of putting things off. The reason for this is tulul amal, our mashayikh teach us. Long-term desires, dreams, fantasies that we have. How shaitan alayhi lana tricks us. This is the reason why we are in this state, is because we do not think of hadim al-ladhat, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. We do not think of the killer of joys. We don't think of death. Death is never in our minds. I'll ask you today, how many of you sat down and thought about death today? Wallahi al-azim, if you think of death, you will never be the same person. I'm talking about serious thinking on regular basis, which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us. We need to constantly think of death. So there are 4 types of hearts, and the most dangerous is which one? as far as we're concerned, relating to us, is our heart. Because majority of us oscillate. One day good, next day bad. 1 hour good, next hour bad. We just constantly oscillate. And we don't know what's going to happen to us. But there is one particular hadith, before I put you into despair, I'm going to give you that hadith, inshallah, which will be a good practice for you. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من نام على تسبيح أو تكبير أو تهليل أو تحميد بعث عليها يوم القيامة ومن نام على غفلة بعث عليها يوم القيامة فعودوا أنفسكم الذكر عند النوم صدق رسول الله فيما قال أو كما قال. Beautiful. We teach our children at a young age, before you go to sleep, you have to say, Bismika Allahumma wa amut. Allahumma bismika wa amut. You say, oh Allah, in your name. And you say the Shahada. You read the Quls. You read the Ayat al-Kursi. And you read the, the four Quls. And you read the other du'as that in the Sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And go to sleep. And make lots of salawat. And make lots of dhikr. We teach our children. Here is the proof. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, if a person in his last, before he retires to sleep, he's in bed, if the last words that come out of his mouth is none other than tasbih, subhanallah, 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 or tahmeed, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, or takbir, like the 33 times it is sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before you go to sleep, in the bed, you say, like the tasbih that you do after salat, 33 times subhanallah, 33 times alhamdulillah, 34 times Allahu Akbar. These are tasbihat. If you say this, that's Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, okay, and tahleel is la ilaha illallah. You shall wake up. If you die that evening, may Allah give you long life, and our loved ones, inshallah ta'ala, when you wake up from your grave on the day of judgment, you'll be making those tasbih. If you wake up in a state of dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what will happen to you? What does that mean? That means, inshallah, you will be ahlul la ilaha illallah, and you will enter Jannah. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, therefore, whoever goes to sleep in a state of ghafla, heedlessness, completely forgotten about what he was doing, and he was so tired because he watched until 3 o'clock some DVD or some movie of some nonsense, and he's just going through the pictures in his mind, and before he said anything, even Bismillah or Astaghfirullah, he went to sleep. If na'udhu billah, on the day of judgment, if he were to die that night, and wake up on the day of judgment, you shall be thinking of that movie. There is no Allah in your heart. There is no Quran in your heart. There is no tasbih in your heart. Hafidhan Allah wa iyyakum. This is very important. Therefore he says, whatever of the two is dominant again, the last thing that you said, on the day of judgment you shall be resurrected accordingly. No matter what happens, no matter how terrible Muslim you are, right at the last moments in your bed, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam calls sleep as the brother of maut. When we go to sleep, nobody knows. Our ruh just takes off. Our body's on earth, yeah, connected, but we are somewhere else. Some people never wake up. According to statistics, 3 weeks ago at uni, we were going through some death. You know what happens with alcoholics and what have you, and the body clock. They say the most deaths take place between 2 and 4 in the morning. And sometimes we hear the word, oh, in the middle of the night he just passed away, easily went to the other side. It says, according to statistics, most deaths occur between 2 to 4 in the morning. So a good Muslim usually awake at that time in making what you call ibadat tahajjud, but majority of the people just go to sleep amongst the sick people, for example. So, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala Sayyidina Muhammad. I forgot, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying last? Let's see. Before I gave you the statistic, what was I saying? Are you listening? Sleeping with dhikr. Sleeping with dhikr, you must Yes. Remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says in Kitab al-Adhkar of Imam Nawawi, you can find the references there, many hadith narrated from Ibn Sunni, rahimahullah. He says, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, he who, when he goes into sleep, just before he goes to sleep, when he puts his bed on, when he puts his head on the bed, on the pillow, and says 3 times, Astaghfirullah al-Azim, al-Kareem, al-Rahim, alladhi la ilaha illa hu, al-Hayy al-Qayyuma, wa natubu ilayh. Everybody knows this, correct? And if you add the Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa anta khalaqtani, there's another hadith for it also. He says, even if the sins, the minor sins of this person was more than the foams of the sea, sand particles of the deserts, higher than the clouds, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive that person that particular night. If he dies that night, he will die in a state of iman. 3 times. What did you do in the last minute of your life before you pass to the semi-death state, sleep? Astaghfirullah. Oh Allah, please forgive me. Astaghfirullah. Al-Azim, Al-Kareem. Allah the Majestic. Allah the most, what do you call? Generous. Alladhi la ilaha illahu. There is none worthy of worship except Him. Al-Hayy al-Qayyum. He is ever living, everlasting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You make this istighfar thinking 3 times, only 3 times. And if you read the other du'as, and even if you're so tired that you cannot even open your eyes, just continue to read. Read. Make sure the last things that you do before you go to sleep is what? Dua and dhikr. Salawat upon Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, you shall be resurrected on the day of judgment in that particular hal, in that particular state. So, one way of getting rid of our ghafla is to make dhikr before we go to sleep. I have told you this story many times before, but it is relevant to our situation. It will wake some of you up. During the time of Musa alayhi salam, he was informed by the angel that that person went to Jannah and that person went to Jahannam. And Musa alayhi salam looked at those persons. The person who went to Jahannam is a masha'Allah. He is a very pious and religious scholar. Very pious and religious scholar. And the other one is a fasiq person. He is a really sinful person. He is a Muslim, but a sinful Muslim. But he went to Jannah. Musa alayhi salam was confused. So he came to the suburb of those two. They were neighbors to each other. They died in the same night. And he went first to the wife of the pious one. He says, tell me about your husband. Nobody would know him from outside. Everybody thinks that he's a good person. But what do you think? How was his ahwal? And he says, yes, Ya Musa alayhi salam, he was a very good man. He did everything by the book. He did everything according to Sharia of Musa alayhi salam. There is not a single thing that you can find a blemish on his character. But he says he had one funny practice that I never understood. What was that? He says when he went to sleep, he will say to himself, every night, without fail, if what Musa alayhi salam is saying is true, oh, I made it in the hereafter. If what Musa alayhi salam is saying is true. In other words, he's got a doubt in akhirah, in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, in what the Tawrat and Zabur is teaching. So, he's got a doubt. Although he does everything according to the book. His main connection, in other words, he's got everything set up. All the equipment is there, but his connection is plugged in onto the socket, but that little button is not turned on. He's not really sure which is right or which is wrong, which is on, which is off. Therefore, he lost it. Musa alayhi salam says, I understand. Then he went to the drunkard's wife. He says, tell me about him. He says, yes, Ya Rasulullah, ya Musa alayhi salam, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah, Musa. He says, I understand, yes, everything what people say about my husband is true. Yep, I know he was a terrible person. But tell me, tell me more about him. So, but he was a very funny man. How? Before he went to sleep, he'll put his hand, he'll make astaghfirullah, before he goes to sleep, and he says, Ya Rabbi, although I'm not a very good Muslim, but I believe everything what Musa alayhi salam sent to you, what Tawrat contains, and what Musa alayhi salam teaches to us, and I believe in you, Ya Rabbil Alamin. And he will say, he will die he will just go to sleep like this. Even if he's full on drunk, he will never forget to say these things. Now, you must understand, the point that I'm making is this hadith. The last words that you say before you go to sleep has an effect on your resurrection on the day of judgment. I'm not giving you a license to go and become a drunk and say these things and you'll be okay. Don't take any risk as such. All the fara'id are fard. All the fara'id we must do. We must keep away from the harams of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our path is path of taqwa. Make sense? So we need to be careful. So I'm just pointing out to you, ghafla is a state of purposeful drifting off the nafsul ammara. We know what the right thing is, but we keep on putting it off, putting off our tawbah, and keep on dreaming pipe dreams about our future, and therefore neglecting our duties, and we think we catch on to a hope, a tamanna of mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's going to give it to us. This is not it. Ghafla is a very dangerous thing. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually informs us about the state of ummah, how state of ghafla they will all be fallen into. I'm going to give you two of our saying of our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then inshallah which will make the point a bit more clearer. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم سيأتي زمان على أمتي, a time shall come upon my ummah. He's referring to us at times. يحبون خمسا وينسون خمسا. A time shall come upon my ummah where my ummah will love 5 things and completely and utterly forget 5 things. Forgetfulness is ghafla. What are they? يحبون الدنيا وينسون العقبة. They will definitely love this dunya. They will fall in love with dunya, what this dunya has to offer, and they will completely forget about akhirah. Why? If you ask in a more modern sense, when you lose your senses, when you can no longer focus, you've got a cataract in your eyes, and you can't see things, everything's blurry, okay? Therefore your judgment of things is completely different. This is a state of ghafla. When a Muslim is supposed to focus on, very clearly, on akhirah, when he loses focus, that focus point becomes blurry, that's ghafla. It's a cataract on your eyes. And this cataract is self-imposed. This cataract on the eyes is actually cataract on the heart. And how does this cataract work? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in the hadith the following. He says, إذا أذنب العبد نكت في قلبه نكتة سوداء فإن تاب صقل منها فإن عاد زادت حتى تعظم في قلبه. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrates this hadith from in the Mustadrak of Hakim and Tirmidhi and Ibn Majah. If a servant sins, that sin is a deliberate act of defiance against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what sin is. What is a sin? Deliberate act of defiance. You knowing what the truth is, you totally disobey deliberately, knowingly. If you do something by mistake, you sin by mistake, there is no sin in this. But you get sin when you deliberately, purposefully do something which is against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Uzair alayhi salam says, do not look at the size of your sin, but look at towards whom are you sinning. Brother, I only spat on your face. I didn't kick you. Excuse me. I only swore at your mother. I didn't shoot you. Yeah, one is a big one. The other one is, okay. What does that mean? In any case, you've just insulted me. In any case, you have, you were very mean towards me. Therefore, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, when a sin is committed, what will happen? What will happen in the spiritual world, in the spiritual realm, in our spiritual heart? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, a black dot is put in his heart. Whether he likes it or not, with a texter, spiritual texter, in the spiritual heart, there's a black dot. Then what happens? If he makes tawbah, repents, in other words, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this particular dot, stain, which is put there, is removed. What is the removal of this particular thing? Is tawbah, asking for forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Else, if he continues to sin without any tawbah, his heart will be completely darkened. Each time he sins, dot, 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 it completely darkened. No nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no ilham from the Quran, nur from the Quran and Sunnah will ever come. The heart who was sensitive before, when he used to listen to the ayat of Quran and he used to cry, sometimes until the morning he would listen to Abdul Basit and cry until the morning because his heart was so sensitive. Now, even if he listens to Shaykh al-Shuyukh, Sudais, he gets nothing. Even Manshawi, he listens to nothing. His heart doesn't move anymore. Why? Because his heart is completely sealed off. Ghafla. Ghafla. Ghafla is a very dangerous thing. Again, they ask Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said in a different hadith, Sahih hadith, he says, hearts become rusted like the iron when it sees water. When the elements, if you put the iron is such a what do you call a substance, the element that if it touches the other elements, water and sun, and they become rusty, as we know. And how do we clean this rust? They said, Ya Rasulullah, what is the jila of this? What is the polish of the heart? He says there are a few things. According to hadith, he says one is tilawatul Quran. Recitation of continuous Quran with the meaning, understanding what you're reading. Not in a parrot fashion, just reading. I'm talking about understanding what you're reading. So that you think what the meanings of ayah, it just affects your heart, then heart becomes cleansed. Jila, the polishing starts. Another one Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, dhikrul maut, remembrance of death. In other words, every day a Muslim supposed to remember death, like eating food. 3 times a day, you must sit down in a day for 20 minutes to half an hour, sometimes an hour if you can. Just sit down and think what will happen to you. When you die, right this moment, what will happen to you? The music just stops. Somebody pulled the plug out. All your party is gone. Party pooper. We call death. It came to you. What is going to happen? Then the reality starts. The real purpose of your life. Then you understand why we're here. Malakul Maut is there. He takes your life away. He takes you to the other side. What will happen to you? The music is gone. Party is finished. No more. Your life just changed that particular minute. Thinking, mentioning of death on regular basis also purifies the heart. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for example, says, "Kafa bil mauti wa'idan." Ya Umar radiallahu anhu used to make other people to say into himself, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is a hadith. He says, remembrance of death is the greatest advisor to a person. You want nasiha? Think of death. You want your heart to move? You want to be motivated in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? To come to your senses? Think of death. Kafa. It's enough for you. The best advisor, best counselor for you is death. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. Again, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Udhkurul mauta, amma walladhi nafsi biyadihi. لا تعلمون ما أعلم لضحكتم قليلا وبكيتم كثيرا." This hadith was the biggest whip for me when I was young. My heart is full of ghafla, I told you. It doesn't affect me very much. But this hadith alone used to make me run in da'wah. What is it? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, remember death so much. I swear by Allah who holds my nafs in his hand, his yad. لو تعلمون ما أعلم لضحكتم قليلا وبكيتم كثيرا. If you only knew, if you only but knew the things that I know, what's awaiting for humanity, the Day of Judgment. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shown to me, what Jannah, Jahannam is. I swear by Allah, He says, none of you will ever and ever laugh. You will be always crying. So afraid. And yet look at the state of human beings. We are in a state of ghafla. Because of this ghafla, we laugh. We have parties. We enjoy ourselves. We go crazy. Ya Latif. Malakul Maut just looking at you and says, Subhanallah, what kind of creatures is this? I'm here waiting. And yet, these people are enjoying themselves. But this is a different discussion altogether. I don't want to go into. But in terms of remembrance of death, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, أَكْثِرُوا ذِكْرَ هَادِمِ اللَّذَّاتِ. Increase your remembrance of joy breaker, destroy of joys, destroy of pleasures. Death. What is the biggest taboo to talk about in this country? Death. Imagine you go to your friends and you talk about death at school. They'll never talk to you again. They'll say, oh, he's weird, oh, he's scary. I don't want to talk to that person. You go to your colleagues and say, I'm dying today. I want to die today. You know what death is? They'll never talk to you again. But in Islam, death is as real as life itself. And it has to become so real at the ideal state that just passing through one to another is just taking one step over. Because ruh doesn't die. We just leave one existence to the other existence. الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have created life and death in order to test you, to put you into a trial. Which of you does good deeds or bad deeds? So the purpose of life is to be focused on akhirah and increase our amount of good deeds, increase our amount of a'mal al-salihah with ikhlas, so that when we pass on the other side, we receive reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, enter into Jannah. Correct? But this particular the state of awareness is not possible for a human being if he is living in life itself all the time, where he is completely engaged in the business of life. His work, his children, his family, his other concerns, his own needs, but he doesn't remember of akhirah. So it is difficult for him to concentrate on the uqba, on the akhirah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's why he says, put as a daily dosage, diet of thinking of death every day, so that this will put an equilibrium, a balance in your life, in your purpose of existence, so that you think of akhirah also at the same time. It is a balance. It is not just you go around, I'm going to die, death. No, it doesn't work that way. You live in this world as if you're never going to die, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. But you also prepare yourself for the akhirah as if you're going to die tomorrow. As if you're going to die tomorrow. So this is the concept. We need to make a daily dosage, daily session of thinking of Tadhkiratul Maut. Which, what does it do? With dhikrullah, tilawat al-Quran, it nourishes our heart. Our heart is cleansed from all those filthy dirts, and our heart begins to change in a state where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves that heart. It begins to receive the anwar, the ilham from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We begin to understand the Quran. We begin to become a human being. The more clean our heart is, the more awake our heart is, free from ghafla, the more closer we are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the more we are in a state of ghafla, the more we are to the reptilian state of the animals, the more we share things the common with the animals. Our society in this day and age, 21st century, is completely neglected this first part of the equation. They do not believe in this. Everything is set up to satisfy this particular side. Dunya, dunya, dunya. Nafs, nafs, nafs. Body, body, body. Senses and sensuality. It's nothing else. But a Muslim is not as such. Muslim is a person who focuses in the hereafter. And Muslim does not fall into tulul amal. Muslim doesn't fall into fantasies of dreams upon dreams that he will never realize. A Muslim is a person who knows the reality. He does his job to the best of his ability with sabr and shukr. A Muslim is a person who continuously awake and aware of his destination and the consequences of his action. Let's come back to the hadith that I mentioned. I only gave you one of them. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, there are, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala Sayyidina Muhammad, there will come a time for my ummah when they will love 5 things and forget 5 things. What were they? They will fall in love with dunya and completely forget about akhirah. وَيُحِبُّونَ الدُّورَ وَيَنْسَوْنَ الْقُبُورَ. Dur is the plural of the word dar. They will love their palaces, their homes, and they will forget about their real home, which is qubur, qabr. Subhanallah. How long are we going to stay in this house of ours that we built after so many years of working? 20 years? 30 years. Many people do not even own a house until the age of 40, 45. Then they live another 20, 30 years on it, and after that they cark it, they die. 30 years. They work so many years to build a house. And yet as soon as they go into the qabr, how long they're going to stay in there? Until when? Until the day of judgment. Maybe millions and billions of years. Billions of years. Did we prepare our qabr? How do we prepare our qabr? Qabr can be a place, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, of one of the gardens of paradise or one of the pits of Jahannam, depending on what you prepared for it. In other words, whether you were awakened Muslim, switched on Muslim, a Muslim who was aware and he did his job, his duties towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, avoided all the harams, he had qana'ah, he had believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he accepted his qadar, and he worked hard to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with ilahi anta maqsudi wa ridaka matlubi, day and night. He never faltered from this particular focus, and his qabr will definitely turn into one of the gardens of paradise until he wakes up on the day of judgment, or else it will definitely turn into one of the pits of Jahannam. Simple as this. We have spent so much time in building our houses in this world, our dream house in such and such suburb. Even we know what color the walls are, what color the kitchen bench is, what kind of equipment we're going to install, what kind of carpet we're going to have, what kind of car we're going to have, what kind of this, what kind of heating we're going to have. And yet none of us ever dream of our real temporary, but the longest home in this temporary world, which is akhirah. Correct? Which is the qabr. Third, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to us, he will love his dur, actually the second one is his dur, homes, and forget his qubur. Thirdly, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, وَيُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ وَيَنْسَوْنَ الْحِسَابِ. He will definitely love his accumulation of wealth. He wants to become rich and rich and rich and rich. He wants more and more. Halal or haram, it doesn't matter. And he completely neglects the concept and the notion that one day he shall be held accountable for every penny, how he has earned and how he has spent. How he has earned that every single dollar and how he has spent that every single dollar will be questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because everything is a trust. Everything is an amana. Everything is an amana. Halaluhu hisabun, haramuhu adhabun. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, what a wonderful balance. Halal of it, a Muslim, if he earns lots of halal, which is good, alhamdulillah, but realize that one day you will stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and answer for how did you earn this money and how did you spend? Halal or haram way? It was halal, okay, you have proved that it's halal, but still you need to give account for thousands of years before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it's haram, it will definitely be a point or reason for you to be thrown into Jahannam and be punished for. Haramuhu adhab. So people in this world, look at around, including myself. We all want wealth. But we don't think about the consequences of that wealth. What will happen on the day of judgment? What happens to hisab? This doesn't mean that we don't want to become rich, by the way. We can become rich, but you fulfill the requirements of that wealth. Firstly, you are a trustee. You just holding that money for somebody else from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And your job is to give your sadaqah, charity. You have to spend in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, earn it in the halal way and spend in the halal way. When you fulfill the requirements of that wealth, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in a different hadith, wealth in the hands of a salih Muslim towards the end of the day is such a ni'mah, such a great wealth. Da'wah work can never happen without wealth. We can't even provide any of these things to you if we don't have money. How in the world are we going to do internet, what they call streaming, to hundreds of people watch, if we do not have money to pay for the service? Finance is the backbone in this country, in this day and age, for da'wah. We need to become rich. And when we become rich, we must give certain amount of that percentage of that money into our da'wah, for our deen, for our servicing our aqrabeen, our people who are around us, the poor, the needy, wayfarer, the next of kin, we must look after. It is compulsory. It is not your wealth, it is only given to you. Halaluhu hisab, haramuhu adhab. So a time shall come upon my ummah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, yuhibbuna al-mal wa yansawna al-hisab. The next one, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, wa yuhibbuna al-iyal wa yansawna al-hur. They will love their worldly wives. They are also human beings like you, which is halal to do so, not a problem. But there is a limit to everything. But they will forget about what the Jannah has to offer. What Jannah in paradise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to offer on the Day of Judgment, they will completely forget, which is represented by the word hur. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, the last one, وَيُحِبُّونَ النَّفْسَ وَيَنْسَوْنَ اللَّهِ. They will definitely fall in love with their own selves, their bodies, their whims and wishes, their hawa, their caprice, what they want, what I want, whenever I want. It's for me, me. It's me, ana shaykh al-shuyukh. Yeah, ana. They will fall in love with ana, but they will completely forget about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُم. The ayah I mentioned to you before. They will forget about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As a result, Allah will make them forget themselves. Here, the hadith. They'll forget themselves. They will forget themselves as a result of Allah. They're forgetting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here, they will fall in love with themselves. We spend thousands on ourselves. We go to the gym to look after, sculpt our body. We take so many vitamins and minerals and pills to keep in shape and healthy. We go to detox program. We go to this nonsense. We go to that nonsense. Being healthy is good. Not a problem, it's an amana. But to worship the body, my temple, I worship in it. This is utter nonsense. That's what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. A time shall come upon my ummah. They will do everything for their body. This material thing, which after the packaging, the avatar, they will eventually lose it. But they will forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a state of ghafla. This is another sign for being ghafil. And the last statement of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this regard is what sends shivers to my spine. When my ummah, what does it say? When my ummah love this dunya and forget about the akhirah. When my ummah love their homes and forget about the graves. When my ummah love their wealth and forget about the judgment day, hisab. When they will love their iyal, their wives, and forget about the hur al-ain of Jannah, and they will love their nafs. They will love their nafs and forget about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is complete sign, sealed ghafla. They are in a state of ghafla completely. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says the last thing, hum minni bura'u wa ana minhum bari'un. They have nothing to do with me and I have nothing to do with them. What does that mean, Anas? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, they've got nothing to do with me and I've got nothing to do with them. They're not my ummah. They're not Muslims. Although they might believe that they are. Because shaitan will make them think. heart of the hearts, we need to look at. What state is it in? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, again in this regard, this is the last hadith I'm going to tell you, and I want you to think, inshallah. Put your thinking caps on. عن ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال اغتنم خمسا قبل خمس شبابك قبل هرمك وصحتك قبل سقمك وغناك قبل فقرك وحياتك قبل موتك وفراغك قبل شغلك. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, make use of 5 things before 5 things come to you. You are afflicted by 5 things. Take care of your youth. Benefit from your youth in the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the ibadullah, in the service of Allah, before old age comes to you. Because when you're old, you can't do things anymore. When your packaging gets old, when you feel pain from the places that you never thought it was possible, when you can't walk, when you can't run, when you're not energetic anymore, everything's painful. The thoughts are constantly occupied. Which doctor am I going to go first? Is it the second doctor, third doctor? Is it blood pressure? Is it diabetes? If it's a heart problem, is it this? You're constantly preoccupied with your health. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, before old age comes to you, know the value of your youth. Secondly, again, your health before your sickness. The only people who know the value of real health are the people who are suffering seriously in the hospitals. Sometimes when we have a toothache, when we have a toe ache, broken nose, what they call fractured toenail, or something, and you can't even sleep at night. It's throbbing with pain. And the person next to you is snoring away. You say, I wish I was like him, but I can't sleep. It's pain. So, in your healthy times, remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala much. And do your ibadah to the best of your ability. In your time of sickness, Allah will come to your end, their help. There is a hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, if a person is in the habit of doing good things, good ibadat, he does on regular things, his salat, and tahajjud, and his Quran, his da'wah work, but all of a sudden he became sick. But his heart is with the da'wah. He wants to do all those things. Because of his sickness, serious sickness, he can't do any of those things. On the Day of Judgment, he will see that as if he has done all of those good deeds like when he was healthy, although he didn't do any of those things, because his heart was there. So if your heart is in the right place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the reward of it, even if you become sick. For a good Muslim, he's always in a win-win situation. But for many people, as soon as they become sick, they give up everything. So they say, I wish I was healthy, I can do this, I can go to Hajj. Why don't you go to Hajj? You had 45 years of good health. How come you didn't go to Hajj? Now you can't go to Hajj because your doctor says you can't go to. You will be responsible for. Okay? Your life before your death. Know the value of life, because until Malakul Maut appears before you and says, Amana, please, excuse me, return. Yep, okay, number such and such, come give it to me. Until that time, the last breath, you are alive and you have a chance to be forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Until your last breath comes out. Until you see the veils are removed from the eyes and you see Malakul Maut and other things. Until that time, you have time to make tawbah. Until that time, you have to, you have time to make tawbah. There is one particular person who was telling me a story. He said he attended a function in Sydney. Somebody came in the function. Somebody became a Muslim in that function. So the person is about 65 years old, elderly. Became a Muslim. Subhanallah, very good. 1 or 2 or 3 weeks he continued, and after that 3 weeks he continued to come to the classes. And after the 3rd week he disappeared. He doesn't come. 4th week, 5th week doesn't come. The brother says, I asked the students, go and check on him. What is he up to? One of them says, maybe he's changed his mind. He's not happy with becoming a Muslim, so maybe he went back to the old ways. He says, no, let's go and visit him. They went to his house. And some elderly lady, wife, presumably, opened the door. And she said, yes, you are in the house of Mr. Jackson. Correct. He says, but he has passed away. 2 weeks ago. Passed away 2 weeks ago. We felt as if the electric shocks just went into our bodies. He says, everybody's so sad and upset, but I'm thinking, subhanallah, a life of kufr, a life of sin. In the last 2 weeks only, he made he accepted Islam, he became a Muslim, and after 2 weeks, he doesn't know he was dying. And after the 2 weeks, after 3 weeks of attending of the lectures, then the following week, we thought that he wasn't coming, then we just realized that he died. Did he know? No. So could it happen? 100%. To anybody. I know quite a few people who were terrible before in their youth days, but they made tawbah and came back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Very good, mashallah. In the last 1 month of their year, death, they became very good Muslims. And you can see the nur on their face. They made tawbah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changed them. And there are many people, in the last, they live a life of good Muslim, and towards the end of their lives, they lose it. Therefore, we can never depend on our a'mal or good deeds. We must understand this. But we must be always aware that Malakul Maut is around the corner. He can knock on our doors at all times. And therefore, we must prepare ourselves. We must be ready for the journey ahead of us. And when you're not ready, you are called a ghafil person, in a state of jahala, in a state of ghafla. This is the biggest sickness for the Muslims of today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah eradicate all of our ghafla from our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove all the diseases of nafs al-ammara from our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instill in our hearts and give us the love of muhabbat towards good akhlaq, good attributes that He loves. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before we die from this life, before we move on to the next life, make those last moments of ours the best moment of ours. The moments in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is absolutely thrilled and happy with us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to pass on to the next world in a state of iman and yaqeen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah increase our amal al-salihah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be resurrected on the day of judgment amongst the siddiqeen, shuhada wa salihin. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase our yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to go through mizan, scales and sirat in a lightning manner. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to enter into Jannah with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the first entrance. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us the neighbors to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with our loved ones, with our parents, with our children, with our grandchildren, great parents. Everybody is related to us, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to experience His Jamal from Jannah inshallah. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Subhan rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Al-Fatiha.